Hello and welcome to this West Yorkshire Football Show special with me, Stephen Downs, and of course my absolutely favourite co-presenter as of this moment anyway is Mr. Dave Foy. All right, Dave, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Everyone else who's part of the West Yorkshire Football Show, take note of that remark. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, we're going to get into it, but now we're on the cusp of England kicking off their World Cup campaign. It's definitely gone up a gear for me.
Yeah. So obviously, we've not really been on stream since the World
No.
Cup has begun because we've been busy and doing other things. But firstly, just before we get into tonight's game against Croatia, that is why we will be what we will be sort of talking about mostly. And get your comments in, guys, obviously, to what you think the score might be. We're going to go through the formation, stuff like that. But yeah, what have you made to it so far, Dave? Have you watched many of the games? What have you thought to sort of who's played well and maybe who hasn't?
Yeah, I mean, despite my sort of bullish remarks maybe a few weeks ago about, early morning kickoffs and I'll be having no part of it, I've enjoyed it more than what I thought I would do. I'm still not staying up at 2 o'clock for Ivory Coast against Tunisia because it just doesn't interest me still. But I mean, the games I've seen, I mean, come on, Cape Verde 0-0 against Spain, 40-year-old goalkeeper. You know what I mean? All these viral stories we've had about him, follower counts going up from what was it, something like 40,000 to something like 9 million. Is it now? We've had a
Yeah,
few upsets. You know what I mean? Curacao, I think, held Germany for long enough. I know they ended up losing 7-1. Everybody,
well, Germany scored in the first 5 minutes, but then Curacao
yeah,
got it back to
they did
1-1 and
equalise.
actually
Yeah,
held them for a little. I think whilst it was 7-1 in the end, like you say, it was one of them games where the goal for Curacao was actually the story.
yes. Oh, yeah,
Germany can beat
absolutely.
anybody 7-1, can't they?
Well, funnily enough, they've only ever beaten two teams 7-1 in the World Cup, Brazil and Curacao.
Yeah. So
But yeah, I understand the point you're making. Yeah, obviously, yeah, the story there is Curacao equalising. We've had a few little upsets there. We had Netherlands, Japan that ended 2-2, two teams that had contrasting styles.
yeah,
Obviously, in the stalemate, France eventually got their act together last night, and Mbappe wrapped the game up with what can only be described as world class. It's a world class strike. At 2-1, I was thinking in my head, there's just enough time for Senegal to maybe even try and sneak a 2-2. And as soon as I was mentally sort of processing that, Mbappe unleashed and it was 3-1, and it
yeah,
looked more comfortable than what it were, I think, in the end. Obviously, you have to remember Senegal were or are the Africa Cup of Nations winners. I know there was a very cloudy end to that particular final. But again, if you swing more towards Morocco, they drew 1-1 with Brazil. I think possibly a few people underestimated Morocco a little bit, or did they half forget that they were previous semi-finalists in the World Cup, coupled with at least whatever you want to dress it up as an Africa Cup of Nations win or a beaten finalist. Like I said, it had a
yeah,
controversial end. Brazil are what they once were, and I think that showed on the evening. But all in all, a good tournament. Scotland got their first win in 36 years. If we're going to bring it a little bit closer to home, albeit a narrow 1-0 win over Haiti with a deflected goal also. But yeah, that's a little milestone. Or that's a milestone for Scotland at the first World Cup since 1998. So
yeah, definitely. I think for me, Dave, the biggest surprises so far have been Sweden, definitely
yes, Sweden, yeah,
because of how they qualified for this World Cup.
yeah,
Obviously they got in on the back of the Nations League, but really they've been pretty terrible for 1 or 2 years.
mm,
Obviously, they absolutely played brilliantly the other night,
mm,
and of course on the back of that, Tunisia sacked their manager. Only the third manager in World Cup history to get sacked in the middle of a tournament. By the way, I mean that's
mm,
and two of the previous people that was sacked was a previous Tunisia head coach. So tells you about if Tunisia don't do well in a World Cup, you're looking at being sacked
yeah.
mid-tournament. But I thought Sweden played really well. I think the biggest disappointment so far is definitely Brazil.
Mm.
And I actually thought Argentina's game was really an unbelievable performance, and particularly by the little magic man in Leo Messi.
Yeah, I mean, they've put, obviously the current holders have put down the marker. You know, they're going to come in. They're coming into this tournament. You know, because sometimes we've seen in previous tournaments, winners have almost either made slow starts or they've tended to struggle in that next tournament after. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. I seem to think France didn't have the greatest 2002 World Cup, having been winners. I mean, they won 98 and they were Euro champions in 2000. I know they had a disastrous Euro 2004. Sometimes defending champions don't start particularly well, so I think it was important for Argentina to lay down that marker. And as you say, it's Messi that's got the hat trick, and that'd probably be a perfect opening from an Argentinian point of view.
Yeah, just finally before we get on to England, like you said, you know, Scotland got through their first game, which realistically they needed to win. I mean, with how bad Brazil were, I could even see Scotland getting a result against Brazil, to be honest, with the way you know, the group is shaped up. But what I think has been nice to see is that all the home nations in Mexico, Canada, and particularly the US have had decent enough results and looked quite good.
Yeah. I mean, Mexico almost made it routine against South Africa that, you know, opening the tournament. I mean, 3 red cards to open the tournament always, you know, that were great for me. I thought they were all sendings off, by the way. I don't know if we've discussed this on the World Cup Daily as it's been coming. I think possibly the last one, maybe. There was an argument it wasn't, but my gut instinct with it was he's going to send him off, and he did. Obviously, I mean, America, 4-1 win. For Americans that haven't really followed football that closely, they're going to think that America are great at this, you know, at football. Are they going to carry that on, or are they going to come down to earth with a bump? Canada, a respectable draw against a Bosnia side that aren't exactly a poor team within Europe. You know, they're sort of, I wouldn't know where to rank them in terms of European sides, but they're not in that like bottom third. They're not like a Luxembourg or a San Marino, or, you know what I'm getting at. They're not Azerbaijan. They're an established European side, etc. So I mean, I suppose Canada a bit. You what? Sorry.
They've got some good players like Edin Dzeko.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Still knocking about, you know.
Yeah, Canada can take a lot of heart from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think let's move on to what we're going to preview tonight then. Obviously, it's the 3 Lions against Croatia, a team that down the years, Dave, obviously a country that we've played against many times, have many different results against, actually, going all the way back to the early 2000s. But it should be an interesting game tonight. Croatia side that is pretty, I would say, at the end of its life cycle now in terms of that sort of team. You've got, you know, you like Luka Modric, particularly, obviously, you know, getting to the sort of back end of his career. Yes. Probably didn't think he was going to make this World Cup, and actually, you know, they've made it. Again, you've got other players in there that are coming to the end of their career. So, and then you've got the sort of young, sort of hungry England side that they're going to, you know, we're going to discuss in a second. But yeah, just general thoughts. Are you looking forward to the fixture?
I am. I mean, Croatia, since they were they formed in something like 1992, obviously, without getting too into world politics, obviously, Croatia part of the former Yugoslavia, as was Bosnia. Since Croatia became an independent country, they've, you know, what have they had? Have they had 2 or 3 third finishes at the World Cup? Yeah, they've beaten England. Did they beat us? Did they beat us at some point?
In 2018.
They got to the final that year. Yeah. You know, there's somebody that we've come across quite a lot since their formation.
Of course, they knocked us out in 2008, where we didn't even qualify for the
Euros. I don't think Croatia have failed to qualify for a World Cup. I think they might have been at USA 94. They were certainly at 98 because they finished 3rd. I think they were in Japan. So possibly the biggest overachievers in literal world international football, certainly. And tonight, I'm going to end up going from more of an England point of view. Tonight sets a marker down as to what we're going to do in this tournament, because I feel previous England teams, this would be a game that they would struggle with. Like they would possibly draw or even lose this game. Like there would be a shock, and everybody would be. I mean, the English media love to hype up the England team, but this would have been a fixture where we'd have been hyped up, possibly a lot more than what we are at the minute, and we'd have come unstuck. But yeah, as you say, on paper, it's an aging Croatia team. That kind of golden generation's gradually falling away. It'll be more than likely Luka Modric's swan song tournament. And if England want to progress, or if England are going to progress and make it almost rudimentary, they just have to win tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in previous tournaments, we sort of started slow. A lot of the time, I remember even going back to like 2006 where we didn't perform in the first game. We didn't perform very well. And then 2010, obviously, that was terrible. 2018 was, again, a bit different. But again, it was a bit more of a slow start. And then eventually we got that thumping 6-0 win over Panama, of course, which, we do play them again later in the group. But I think Croatia's a tricky test because they're a solid side. They can create chances. And it will be a good test for this back four, which is pretty new, actually, Dave, looking at it. They haven't played together a lot definitely not in tournament football, but actually in international football as a whole, really.
I mean, we've had somebody withdraw. Is it Livramento? And they brought Trevor Chalobah in, and there's been murmurings about why haven't we brought Harry Maguire or why haven't we brought another player? But he's you know what I mean? We've had a wing back be omitted from the side, and we've had another wing back come in to replace him. And yeah, it's going to be a test. It's going to be a test. I mean, we're going to get on to naming what we think will be the starting lineup in a bit, but I think John Stones would be in there. And if players are going to look to one particular player for a bit of guidance, it will be Stones. Obviously, previous tournament experience, as you say, not a lot in that back line, but yeah, it'll just be exactly what you've said. It'll be a test for the back line. I mean, we've still got Jordan Pickford. 99.9% certain we're going to have Jordan Pickford in between the sticks, and he's got loads of tournament experience. We've won penalty shootouts, with him. That curse has been broken. Also with him in the team, so between Stones and Pickford, I think we'll do okay.
I think you make a really good point there, and I wanted to touch on Livramento. I mean, this is this lad's first World Cup. He's been in and around the England squad probably for the last 2, maybe 3 years because of his outstanding performances at Newcastle. I mean, it's just devastating, isn't it? Tuchel said today, look, it's not the worst hamstring injury in the world, but it will take him 5 weeks to even get up to some sort of speed. And obviously, by the time that happens, there's no point keeping him. You might as well send him back. And I think that it's just devastating for the lad, isn't it? And fair play for Trevor Chalobah coming in at this late stage. Obviously, he'll be delighted. I think, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. There is you said that, you wondered why might have been Trevor Chalobah picked over somebody like, say, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, or Lewis Hall, of course, who's Livramento's teammate at Newcastle. Why do you think, just reflect on the devastation for Livramento, but then can you sort of maybe see why Chalobah's been picked instead of a Lewis Hall or a Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I mean, I'm not really sure. Since Trent's left for Liverpool and gone to Real Madrid, I mean, he's a Real Madrid player. We don't really need to go much more into that. I have to admit, I don't really know as much about Trent as previous, but I trust in Tuchel's judgment on players. Why Lewis Hall hasn't gone? The honest answer, Downsy, is I don't know. The manager's made that call, but I think Trevor Chalobah's played most of this season for Chelsea. I don't know how much football Trent's played for Real Madrid. I don't know if he's become a bit more of he doesn't play as much as what he did for Liverpool. I'm a little bit unsure on that, but Chelsea haven't pulled up any trees this year. Chelsea have had the season that they've had. They finished 10th in the Premier League. No Europe next season. Or we've got about 8 or 9 teams in Europe, haven't we, because of the implications of Villa's win and yada, yada, yada. Obviously, we're here to talk about international football. But To wrap it up, truthfully, I don't know, but I trust Tuchel's call on it. Chalobah's who is picked, and that's who we as people that want England to win the World Cup will support.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, as you said, we're going to get into the discussing our team that we think it might be. Now, normally what happens in this is that Tuchel does go with a sort of 4-2-3-1 system. This is on the BBC website, just for clarity, where we can pick our side. But yeah, 4-2-3-1 system. This is what I think it will be, Dave. I don't think we'll see anything different to this, to be honest. We'll start with the goalkeeper, of course, which I think we all expect it to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
There's no sort of doubt in that, is there really?
No.
So obviously Pickford between the sticks. I mean, just as you know, we'll quickly touch on each player, I suppose. I mean, he's an outstanding. I think he's an outstanding goalkeeper. A lot of people think he's pretty average and don't really rate him, but
Pickford.
He's been a hell of a servant to England in sort of internationally, and he's not bad at Everton. I mean, where do you rate him in what I suppose England goalkeepers and goalkeeping in general? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'll quickly run through all the goalkeepers from my England lifetime, starting from 1990. I mean, Peter Shilton was 40 in 1990. Not a lot about him. We didn't qualify for 94. You know, David Seaman in between the sticks, 96 to 2002. He was, in my opinion, probably our best goalkeeper in that period. We had that period in between Seaman and Joe Hart where we tried a few other different goalkeepers. David James, Scott Carson, blah, blah, blah. But to not dwell on him too much, in my lifetime, Jordan Pickford's, in England terms, the most successful goalkeeper we've had. As I just alluded to a few minutes ago, he's been on winning penalty shootout teams for England, which none of these goalkeepers, other than David Seaman in '96, were as just a starting point. I think he's been our most all-round goalkeeper in my lifetime watching England. You know, everybody will always talk about, all the generations obviously talk about Gordon Banks, a man who's lifted the World Cup, so no arguments there. But yeah, in our lifetime, I think Pickford's probably been the best goalkeeper we've had. So no
fair enough
at all.
Let's go to this is left back, is it?
No, that'll be your right back, won't it?
Right back, yeah. So it's because I'm looking at the screen like opposite.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trevor Chalobah has now been added here. We're saying Reece James, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
It is going to be Reece James, I would suspect. Obviously, like you said and rightly pointed out, Chelsea's not had the best season. There has been some comment that Reece James is in some people's opinion, is a world-class fullback. I don't necessarily see it myself, but he's probably the most experienced player in that back four that's probably been at the top the longest. And unlike in previous tournaments, he's now fit. So it probably is a natural choice to just pick him there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think him and John Stones are the only experience that have got previous proper tournament experience. I mean, as you say, Reece James hasn't really got a lot himself. But yeah, if we're going with our strongest team, which you're going to have to do, we need to lay down a marker. Reece James has to be there at right back.
Yeah. Let's go centre back. So you think John Stones will start, yeah?
Yes, I do. I think he might be him or Dan Burn, I'd imagine, at centre back. But I just get the feeling that Stones might get the nod over Burns.
Okay.
I mean, Dan Burns is a centre back I have a lot of time for. I do like Dan Burns. He's just built like a wardrobe, isn't he? It's brilliant. He's 6 foot, whatever, isn't he? And just you can see how much of a threat he poses at dead ball situations. But I just feel if Tuchel's going to go for that little bit of tournament experience, John Stones might be in there. I think, or I would pick him there anyway. But I'm not
even though he's not played the most football, because the argument is going to be you pick Gay and Konsa.
I have to admit I'd forgotten a little bit about Konsa. He's obviously had a great season at Villa. Europa League winner. I had forgotten about Conser. I have to admit, I thought we only had 3 centre backs: Stone, Gahey, and Byrne. So, yeah, in fact, probably put Conser in there. I think the 2 centre backs will be Conser and Gahey actually.
So you now don't think John Stones?
I have to admit, I'd completely forgotten about Conser.
Yeah, I mean, if you want my opinion, I think he will pick John Stones to play in this game. I think he'll pick him over Conser. He'll definitely have Gay in there. He'll definitely have James in there. Now, obviously, we come now to the tricky position of left back. I think it'll be Nico O'Reilly, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it will.
But obviously, Jed Spence can play there. Dan Burn, of course, can play there. Trevor Chalobah can play there. But I would stick Nico O'Reilly in there. I think he's done brilliant since coming into the England team. I think you look at his performance over the last couple of friendlies that they've played. I think he's done really well. And I've always really liked him at Man City. I think, yes, he's a midfield player. But I think because he's grown up under the Pep stewardship, he's one of them players that probably could be really effective wherever you put him, bar goalkeeper.
yeah, go without saying, apart from goalkeeper. But yeah, he's had a pretty decent season for Man City. Gahey has actually started at Palace. Maybe the Palace half of this season, they were. I don't know whether they knew he was going to go in January, but he made his name for himself the previous season where Palace managed to hang on to him. But yeah, I'd say that'd be the back four, and I don't think there can be too many complaints about that. I don't think Tuchel's going to do anything too controversial or left field at this point. Let's just get his first 3 points on the board and go from there.
Let's head into midfield, which I think sort of picks itself, to be honest. What seems to have happened in the previous fixtures in the friendlies is that it has been Declan Rice and I'm just looking here, Elliot Anderson, wherever he's gone. Has the BBC missed him off the list? Let me just have a look. The cat missed him off the list, sure.
If he's not listed, we can just leave him off and we'll just leave it blank because I would probably play Anderson as well. Yeah, it's gonna be Anderson and Rice. Anderson's my England player that I'll be focusing in on this tournament as like the one to watch, and I suppose it's a bit easy to say that because he's there. Other media, obviously mainstream media, are also doing the same. But I think this is the tournament where, he's already getting interest from top teams. But if he puts in a solid performance, he won't be at Nottingham Forest.
No. Do you think
next season?
Do you think he will go to Manchester City?
If they want him, yeah, I think he will. Man City have that kind of pull now. Even without Pep, I think he'll still go. So
we'll move on to the striker position because, again, I think that's pretty obvious. Harry Kane.
Yeah. Again, a bit like Pickford at the back, Kane at the front, pick themselves. Watkins and others will have a role to play in this match, but you've got to start with Kane.
Yeah,
definitely. It picks itself.
Who are you going as the number 10 position? Because this has been again a bone of sort of contention. Jude Bellingham, obviously, Eric Chiese, you've got Morgan Rogers, of course. So they're the three really that have been sort of vying for this number 10 position. For me, I don't see how you can't start Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, I'd go with Jude. Yeah, I'd go with Jude, and again, Morgan Rogers can come on later should he be needed.
Yeah,
as and when.
The wings then. So on the right, normally you would expect Saka to start, but what do you think?
Do you know what? I personally, I might start with Eze. I'd start with Eze. Yeah, I think if Tuchel's going to pick one player who would be unexpected to start in the starting 11, I think it might be Eze over Saka. It's going to be something like that. I think the rest of the team we've picked, not necessarily picks itself, but I think we've put round pegs in round holes. I think Eze or Saka, and I think he might just go with Eze. I'm trying to reflect back on who played well. Is he going to reward players for playing well in the two warm-up friendlies that we've had? Because I think Eze did okay in that game, from what I can remember.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think
it depends if he wants to couple Rice and Saka in the same team for what they've done for Arsenal. Obviously, Premier League winners, good from dead balls. Them two will know what each other are going to do from corners and set pieces. But Eze himself is an Arsenal player, so yeah, if we're going to do one that's sort of left field, I'd put Eze in the starting 11, but it will more than likely be Saka.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. The final one is probably the trickiest call, to be honest. Anthony Gordon and Marcus Rashford have both played off that side.
Yeah.
The game against Costa Rica, I thought Gordon was absolutely outstanding and probably deserves to start this game, but I suspect that it will be Rashford that starts it. But I actually think Anthony Gordon deserves to play in this game and start.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Gordon had a pretty good first half from what I can remember of the Costa Rica. I've watched that much football. A lot of it's blended into one, actually. But I feel, Gordon had a pretty good game against Costa Rica. As you say, if Marcus Rashford plays there, I don't think there's going to be too many complaints. He's had, in what's been what could we call it, a tough couple of seasons now, almost has found, not necessarily, his level of performance hasn't necessarily skyrocketed to great levels again, but he's sort of give himself a bit more of a concrete base to reignite his career now. Obviously, he was up and down at Manchester United. His Villa loan was he was still playing Champions League football, but didn't set the world alight, whereas he seems to have settled into Barcelona. I don't know, literally got his feet back on the ground again, and he'll kick on from there. Having a good tournament here will obviously ignite that path again towards becoming what made him essentially one of the first names on the Manchester United team sheet. But as you say, I think he'll start with Gordon. But it just shows in an attacking sense where we almost can't properly decide on attackers other than Harry Kane. And even then you could make an argument for Watkins, for Rodgers. You know what I mean? It just shows some of the talent we have up front there and in midfield. I mean, I think we sort of every position really. There's only really Pickford and Kane, as I said earlier, that have picked themselves almost.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of sharing that now, but I think personally you look at the strength in depth of attackers like you say is really good. However, it's the defensive areas that worries me. Like I said, it's very new partnership with Conser and Gay. James, obviously, we've talked about the experience at the back. The other side situation is not particularly that fluid, and then you've got John Stones, of course, that hasn't played the most football. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's the defensive area that I think is the one to worry. But certainly, I agree with you. It's very solid in the midfield with Anderson and Rice. Mainu, obviously, is a good player, and he can come into that. And then the forward positions, I think you can pick a plethora, as you said.
Yeah.
Like in other England sides, there's always been a gap between the first team and the rest of the squad. I think the quality is slightly closer in this squad, in this tournament.
I do. And I mean, just getting on to Thomas Tuchel and anyone really questioning his selections, and myself included, I probably would have brought Harry Maguire to the World Cup. At the end of the day, we won all 10 qualifying games and we didn't concede a goal. Who are we? Who are us as mere mortals? Who are we to question Thomas Tuchel and his selection and his processes? You know what I mean? As this first game goes, I mean, speak to me after the game when we've lost 3-0 to Croatia and I might have a bit more of an opinion, for instance. But as it stands, we've no reason to question Tuchel's selections. The only time we've come unstuck is when he had those final couple of games at Wembley where we lost to Japan, and they weren't great performances, but he was trying fringe players to see, You know, when he was trialing a couple of players to see who we could bring to the tournament, and we weren't quite as cohesive. I mean, I know our qualifying groups are like Gibraltar and Moldova and Andorra, and we're expected to beat them home and away, but no one else, I don't think anyone else in World Cup qualification won all 10 games and nilled everybody. There might have been some teams that won all 10. I didn't look into it properly. Obviously, different regions of the world have different qualifying criterias and leagues, how they're set out and stuff like that. But in terms of, we had a 100% win record and did not concede a goal. I think we scored 26 or 28 goals, but you know, you could be here all day trying to knock the merits of it, but you can only beat what's in front of you. We've done that. We've nilled the teams. I'd like to think we'll nil Croatia tonight, and if we're nilling Croatia, as we've touched upon, we've got enough quality at the top end of the field to be scoring a goal or goals. I'd take a 1-0. I'd take a 1-0 win now. I'd take the 1-0 and 3 points, but yeah, I think we're going to do quite well in this tournament.
Okay, well, we've just got 2 comments in. Thanks very much for your comments, Brownie, who also presents the show with us. He says that Nigel Martin didn't get enough caps. I mean, that is obviously a Leeds thing as well, but yeah.
I can't just think when Martin had been around, we'd have probably still had David Seaman between us when he weren't getting moved. I mean, to be honest, there is an argument for that. I mean, how many times did Leeds finish second? And, you know what I mean, they were in Champions League, and let's not inflate Jace's head or Brown's head and the glories of Leeds from 20-odd years ago. But in a fashion, he makes a good point. You know what I mean? Nigel Martin maybe should have got a few more caps than what he did, but he played during that Imperial era of where David Seaman was the number one.
Just want to say that Don Revie failed as England manager, Brownie. That's all I'm saying. Right, the next comment obviously is from Dan. He says Nico O'Reilly's gran has banged £30 on him to score tonight. Put your house on it. So he thinks Nico O'Reilly's going to score. Interesting. It's not the most shocking shout in the world. Right, Dave. Well, we've sort of come to the end of our half an hour. We said that we were only going to be on for a short while just to do a quick preview. But just final thoughts, mate, going into the game. Prediction and final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back, just to reflect on what we've already said, you know, we seem to be more of a team now where there isn't that much gap between what would be your starting 11 and then your sort of reserves. There being a gulf in that quality. I think we've got quality throughout the squad. Tuchel's obviously made some calls that are a little bit that have caused a few grumbles here and there. But I mean, I was saying it in our chat last night. I think this is the first England team where they come as a unit rather than, let's say, 15 of the most talented players that play for England and then trying to squeeze them all into a team together. I think they're the best England team we've had as a unit. And I think it started, I know some people didn't really enjoy Gareth Southgate's way of playing. I don't know how else to sum it up. But at the end of the day, we got to what? Semi-finals, a final, another final. You know what I mean? No other manager in my lifetime's done that. You know, Terry Venables in '96 against Germany. Hello.
Yeah.
Just seen that comment. Yeah. We're not flashing that one up to end the show.
No. Right. Okay. So, prediction then, Dave.
Like I said, I think we're going to I think we'll nil Croatia tonight. I want to go for 2-0. I think we'll score goals close to half-time and maybe just after half-time. One thing we haven't factored in, Downsy, which will have been talked about, if you want to quickly touch on it, we've also got these hydration breaks that break the game up into 4 quarters. How American. There's been goals scored soon after the hydration breaks, and I'm hoping England aren't going to come unstuck due to this, should we call it factor? I don't want to use the word curse. You know, I've got a feeling that England could be in the ascendancy. That whistle blows, it kills a bit of the momentum, and we've got to get going again.
No, you know, that is true. They have been slightly controversial so far, haven't they? The breaks.
The only thing I will say with it, Downsy, is obviously they've argued, why do players need a hydration break when they're in? I think there was one recently where it was like, this is the best air-conditioned stadium in the whole world. you know, the conditions couldn't be any more perfect. The thing with hydration breaks, I think, is you've either got to go all in with it. Every game has to include it. I don't think you can pick and choose games, or you've just not got to do it at all, because you open up a whole can of worms if it's like, well, there was a hydration break here and then there wasn't one in another game. You've either got to do it for all games or you can't do it for any. End of the day, we all know why they're doing it. It's to get extra advertising in that gap.
100%.
Americans
100%.
have Americanized it.
But they were always going to do that. They were always going to do.
They were always going to do something like this, yeah.
I will show that comment actually. So
go on then.
Good morning, my English football foes. Fantastic. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you. Good
show.
Night.
Really appreciate it. So I'll go for the 2-0 win. Feeling confident.
Yeah.
I think we'll have too much for them. Just simply on, I think we'll have too much like legs for them, to be honest. I think they're an old team. They'll be well disciplined. Probably might take us about 30 to 35 minutes to break them down. But I think eventually our quality and our, like I say, our running power and our legs, our fresh sort of younger legs will come good in the end. So I'm going to go a 2-0 win. If you have been keeping up with the daily World Cup show with Chris and his various guests on there, please do go back and watch today's episode. He was with Jay today. There is one every day, Monday to Friday, sort of in the afternoon time. So make sure you keep a lookout for them. Make sure you like the channel, subscribe to it. Really, we want to push on as a channel and try and get to as many subscribers as possible. But yeah, Dave, thanks very much for joining me on this evening.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, right. Thanks very much. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Good night.